My name is Rowan Elledge. I'm 29 and I'll never forget the moment my mother's 60th birthday party turned into a public trial. The celebration was held at a lakeside restaurant in Boulder, Colorado, twinkling candles, champagne glasses, clinking laughter echoing across the room. It felt perfect for a moment. Then my older sister Caroline stood up, her voice slicing through the warm air like a knife. "Rowan, your little act is over. You can't keep fooling Mom or the rest of this family. You're a fraud. And tonight everyone's going to see the real you." Every head turned toward me. I could hear glasses freezing midair, spoons pausing halfway to mouths. A few cousins stared wide-eyed. My mother, Linda, froze, her hand trembling as she set down her drink. I didn't say a word. I looked straight at Caroline, my heart pounding, but my face calm. I knew this moment would come, but I didn't expect her to do it here of all places. Caroline always needed a spotlight. Ever since we were kids, she knew how to pull focus, and here she was again turning Mom's celebration into her stage. But this time her eyes weren't just jealous. They were hungry, like she was waiting for me to break down in front of everyone. I sat up straighter. No yelling, no tears, no defense. I was ready. I'd long gotten used to living in Caroline's shadow. She's 4 years older, louder, bolder, always the center of every family conversation. By middle school, her trophies and certificates covered our fridge debate team medals, honor roll ribbons, letters from elite universities. Me, my hand-drawn postcards got taped to the bottom corner behind the grocery list. Caroline was the daughter my parents, Mark and Linda, proudly name-dropped at dinner parties. After college, she landed a sleek marketing job at a tech firm, married a rising startup guy, and moved into a shiny downtown apartment. Me, I stayed in Boulder working at a nonprofit that helps women escape abusive homes, living in a creaky studio apartment near the edge of town, where the hallway light flickers for no reason. My work didn't come with awards or gala nights, no Instagram posts, no boardroom claps, just late-night phone calls with scared women, quiet job application sessions, and tearful hugs when someone found a safe place to sleep. My parents never said I wasn't enough, but they rarely knew what to say about me. Rowan does some nonprofit work Mom would offer before pivoting quickly to Caroline's newest promotion. Sometimes I wondered if I vanished. Would anyone notice? But there was one thing: Caroline could never take those quiet evenings over tea with Mom. After her long shifts at the hospital, it was just the two of us in the kitchen. Her hands wrapped around a mug, her eyes locked on mine, truly listening. She never asked why I didn't make more money. She just saw me. Those moments were mine. And I think that's exactly what Caroline couldn't stand. Looking back, I can't name a single moment that made me realize Caroline didn't just want to shine, she needed me dimmed. But the signs were always there. Small at first, like paper cuts. Easy to miss until they started stinging. I still remember 8th grade. I spent weeks crafting a school presentation on Colorado history. I made my own slides, hand-drew the maps, rehearsed until I could recite every fact backward. The night before the presentation, I left my laptop on the kitchen table to print materials, and Caroline accidentally spilled coffee all over it. No backup. No time left. She cried immediately, apologized, swore it was an accident. But when no one was watching, I caught a faint smirk tug at the corner of her mouth. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being sensitive. But 2 years later, it happened again. In junior year, I designed a community garden project with a small team. We won a local grant to bring it to life. Caroline, a senior at the time, had nothing to do with it. Yet somehow, she presented the same idea to her school's marketing club and got recognition for it. A certificate, a photo on the school website. When I told Mom, she sighed and said, "I'm sure Caroline didn't mean it. Don't make a fuss." So I stopped fussing. I started swallowing it. I realized Caroline didn't just want to win. She wanted me to lose. Every time I stepped forward, she found a way to push me 2 steps back. Sometimes I wondered if I disappeared, would she finally feel like enough? No one in the family ever called it jealousy. They called it normal sibling rivalry, but to me, it felt like a quiet war I never signed up for. If there was ever something in my life that made me feel truly seen, it was those quiet evenings with my mom, Linda Elledge, back when she worked night shifts, and I was in my final year of college. We didn't need much. Just 2 mugs of hot tea, a quiet kitchen, and Mom asking me, "Who did you help today?" There were no spotlights, no audience, just stories about a young woman finally finding a safe place, or a single mom landing her first job after years of isolation. Mom listened like each story was a triumph. She never asked why I didn't work somewhere bigger or why I hadn't bought a house yet. She was just quietly proud. And I think that's exactly what drove Caroline crazy. After Mom retired, we grew even closer. I took her grocery shopping every week, fixed up her porch so she could read in the sun, and drove her to Saturday morning yoga. They weren't grand gestures, but they were mine. Things I did not for show, not for social media applause. Just out of love, Caroline noticed. And like always, instead of coming closer, she pulled away. But this time she didn't pull away silently. She started to strike. I'll never forget last Thanksgiving dinner. Caroline had a bit too much wine, and in the middle of a cheerful family chat, she turned toward me and said, voice sharp, "We all know Rowan's just sucking up to Mom for the inheritance, right?" The table went still. I remember the clink of a knife hitting a plate, the way Mom looked at me, not with suspicion, but sorrow. Not because she believed it, but because those words had come from her own daughter. I denied it calmly, firmly, but the seed was planted, and I knew Caroline wasn't done. About 2 weeks before my mom's 60th birthday, something started to feel off. A gray sedan, older, well-kept, began parking across from my apartment each afternoon. At first, I thought it belonged to a neighbor, but it was always in the exact same spot, same man behind the wheel, sunglasses, newspaper, never leaving the car. The moment I stepped outside or looked directly at him, he'd start the engine and drive away. I told myself I was being paranoid, still rattled after Thanksgiving, but then things escalated. The nonprofit's social media page was hacked. Strange, cryptic comments appeared. Who's really benefiting here? Is this help? Or manipulation? We reset passwords, wiped it clean, but the vibe at the office shifted. I felt eyes on me. Colder. Cautious. Then donors started calling. One of them bluntly asked, "Are you actually running this foundation or just the face of it?" A chill ran through me. The final straw came one afternoon when I found a business card tucked under my windshield wiper, Prairie Investigations. Discretion, integrity, truth, no name, just a phone number. That's when I knew Caroline had made her move. I began noticing more. Emails marked read before I opened them. One afternoon at a coffee shop near the office, I overheard 2 suited men whisper behind me. "Elledge case is nearly wrapped. Got the bank records, phone logs, everything she won't see coming." I froze. My coffee spilled onto my hand, and I didn't even feel the burn. I felt exposed, like someone had taken my life, cracked it open, and was twisting every detail into something ugly. A narrative I didn't author, but one I'd be forced to answer for. That night, I sat alone on my old couch, city lights, blinking through the window like warning signals. In my hand was the business card from Prairie Investigations. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had picked apart my life, twisted it into something I didn't recognize, and was preparing to put it on display. I picked up the phone and called the one person I trusted without question, Natalie Quinn, my best friend from college, now a sharp, no-nonsense attorney in Denver. "You think it's Caroline, don't you?" I asked. My voice came out hoarse, low from hours of holding it all in. There was a pause, then a heavy sigh from the other end, like she'd been waiting for this call. "Rowan, I didn't want to worry you, but you need to know. At a networking event last week, a colleague of Caroline's, Marilyn Sloan, slipped up. She said Caroline hired Prairie Investigations to dig into every corner of your life. My grip on the phone tightened. My heart wasn't racing from fear anymore, it was anger. What could she possibly be looking for, I asked. I've got nothing to hide. I haven't done anything wrong. Natalie hesitated. They think you're manipulating your mom. For inheritance. Caroline's convinced you've got some dark secret, and she's paying top dollar to find it. A cold wave washed over me. I had assumed Caroline's envy was petty passive. But this was a full-blown campaign. Funded. Targeted. And worst of all, I didn't know what she was planning to reveal at the party. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the spot where that gray sedan always parked. Empty now. But I still felt violated. I had no scandal to hide. Just a few decisions I'd kept private, like helping Mom sue the firm that scammed her out of $30,000. Quietly covering the legal fees so she wouldn't stress. Things I never wanted recognition for. But in Caroline's hands, those truths could be twisted into something unrecognizable. Natalie's voice grew firm. Caroline hasn't found anything damning, Rowan, but if she's desperate enough, she might create it. You need to be ready. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. For the first time, I wasn't scared of being humiliated. I was scared Mom would be the one most hurt. I used to think reputation was built through years of service, through steady, quiet kindness. Turns out, it only takes a few whispers, some anonymous claims, and everything you've built can start to crumble like sandcastles in the wind. Monday morning, the director of my nonprofit called me into her office. Her face wasn't the warm one I was used to. She slid a packet of printed emails across the desk. Anonymous allegations, claims that I had embezzled funds, forged expense reports, exploited vulnerable women for personal gain. I kept my voice steady. I pointed out the flaws, the gaps, the audit trails. Every dollar had a receipt. But I also knew once trust cracks, evidence doesn't always matter. We'll be launching an internal review, she said. Her voice wasn't angry, but it wasn't trusting either. I left her office feeling like someone had stolen my name and dragged it through mud. Co-workers I once shared coffee with avoided my eyes. A volunteer I had helped find temporary housing whispered to someone as I walked into the break room. I caught 3 words. Rowan, can't be trusted. That night I combed through my email looking for any trace of the hack, and I found something that made my blood run cold. In my sent folder was a message I never wrote. Attached was a legal document, a notice of a fraud lawsuit with my name listed as a defendant. The law firm was unfamiliar. The case number didn't match anything real. A financial misconduct case I'd never even heard of. I forwarded it to Natalie. She called me 3 minutes later. Rowan, this is fake. Completely. Wrong font. Wrong formatting. The case number doesn't exist. She paused. Someone's planting false evidence to destroy your credibility. My heart pounded. Someone, no. I didn't even have to guess who was building a whole new version of me. A version that could end not just my job, but my reputation. My integrity. I sat in the kitchen alone, staring at the photo of my mother on the fridge, her bright smile frozen in time. I wasn't afraid of being fired. I was afraid she might look at me differently, even for just a second. I thought I was doing the right thing. 3 years ago, when Mom lost $30,000 to a fraudulent investment firm, she didn't want anyone to know. She was embarrassed, blamed herself for falling for it. I didn't blame her. I just acted. I quietly gathered evidence, bank statements, emails, receipts. I contacted a lawyer and paid the retainer myself to get the case started. No grand gesture, no Facebook post, just me doing what needed to be done for the one person who had never turned her back on me. As the case moved forward, I saw Mom begin to breathe easier. She who had spent her life caring for others finally had someone fighting for her. And now, all of it all, that silence, All that care was being twisted into evidence. Natalie traced the fake legal documents. They didn't come from any real firm. All the breadcrumbs led back to Prairie investigations. But there was something else, something sharper. In the actual lawsuit I helped Mom with, my name had appeared a few times in emails. I wasn't a defendant. I wasn't even being questioned. I was just helping. A daughter assisting her mother. Caroline, with her marketing mind and imagination, had taken that sliver of information and spun it into an elaborate fraud narrative. It felt like I was being erased and replaced with someone I didn't recognize. Not just my name, but everything I'd given. The late nights, the overtime hours, the moments I chose others' survival over my own comfort. Now they could be rebranded as manipulation. I didn't understand what Caroline wanted anymore. It wasn't about winning. It was about making sure I didn't shine even in Mom's eyes. And the part that hurt the most. I couldn't stop Mom from seeing any of it, no matter how wrong it was. The night before my mom's 60th birthday party, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the middle of my small apartment kitchen table, covered in papers, receipts, emails, internal nonprofit documents, even screenshots of bank statements. Not for defense, just to remind myself I have nothing to hide. I made a cup of chamomile tea like Mom used to do for me during college finals. But this time, she wasn't sitting across from me. There was no warm sigh, no knowing glance. Just me, the silence and attention that stretched all the way into dawn. I used to believe that living with integrity meant never needing to be afraid. I was wrong. Sometimes being kind makes you the easiest target. Caroline still hadn't revealed what she planned to say. But this morning, Patrick, my brother, called. His voice was low and tight. Caroline keeps hinting at a special tribute in her speech. You should brace yourself. It doesn't sound celebratory. I thanked him, but in my gut I already knew. There were no surprises left, just impact. I looked around my apartment, the place where I'd stayed up late organizing fundraisers, cried when one of our clients finally got housing, held Mom when she said she felt useless after the scam. Every inch of it bore my fingerprints. And tomorrow, all of that could be erased by one polished speech and a few carefully twisted slides. I scribbled something on a small note and tucked it into my pocket. I know the truth. Mom knows me. That's enough. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing I wouldn't break. I arrived at the restaurant early. It was an elegant lakeside place in Boulder sunlight, pouring through tall glass windows, crisp white tablecloths, Lily's mom's favorite placed delicately on each table. I personally checked her seat, made sure her water glass stayed full, and adjusted the setting for her comfort. I wasn't there to fight. I was there for Mom. To give her a birthday worthy of her, untouched by the storm Caroline had brewed behind the scenes. Caroline entered like she was stepping onto a Broadway stage, silk dress, red lipstick, hair pinned high. She commanded the waitstaff like a director, correcting the cake placement, the lighting, the music. Every step screamed control. But her eyes? They kept flicking to me, betraying a restless energy. Hope you're ready, she whispered as she passed. I smiled. Not exactly ready, but no longer afraid. Mom arrived minutes later, glowing in the navy dress we picked out together. She leaned slightly on her cane, smiling at everyone. I helped her to her seat, holding her hand, when I felt it tremble slightly. The dinner unfolded gently, laughter, warm toasts, courses served like music. But when Caroline rose to speak, I knew the moment had come. Before we cut the cake, she began, voice clear and proud. I have something special to share. A truth. About loyalty in this family. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. A man in a sharp suit stepped forward, leather portfolio in hand. Edward Spencer, Prairie Investigations, he announced. Guests murmured. Mom's brow furrowed. Dad stiffened. Then the slideshow began. A full scholarship to study international development in London declined. Because I had stayed in Boulder to support Mom after she'd been scammed. The room went silent. Edward moved to the next slide. Bank transfers retainer payments for the attorney and documentation of the women's fund I created in Mom's name, all funded from my personal savings. Caroline didn't move. Her face went pale. Edward continued. No evidence of misconduct. Every action taken by Rowan Elledge was in service of her family with no request for recognition. I glanced at Mom, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her hand tightened around mine. I said nothing. The truth was, doing what no defense ever could, it was protecting me. After the presentation, the room was breathless with silence. Caroline had lost her composure. She shouted, "That can't be everything, she's hiding something." But no one replied. The eyes in the room weren't on me anymore. They were on her, like she was suddenly the stranger in the story. Mom stood shaky but firm. Her voice was soft, yet it cut through everything. "I need to speak with my daughters, alone." The air shifted. All conversation faded as she slowly walked toward the private lounge. Her cane tapped the floor with steady purpose. Caroline and I followed. She moved quietly now, no longer the commanding presence from earlier. Inside the quiet lounge, we sat down, just the three of us. The muffled sounds of the party echoed faintly through the walls. Mom looked at us both, her eyes heavy with years she hadn't spoken of. And then she said, "Caroline, I'm disappointed, not because you were angry, but because of how you chose to express it. Hiring investigators, turning my birthday into a spectacle. You didn't protect me. You hurt me." Caroline lowered her head, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. It's always Rowan. Always. You chose her. I had to know why. I thought she was using you." I turned to look at her. For the first time, I didn't see an adversary. I saw a little girl still desperate to be loved. I spoke quietly. "Caroline, you were always the one they praised, the one they cheered for. All I had were tea nights with Mom in the kitchen. I wasn't trying to win her over. I just wanted to be seen, even if only in silence." Caroline looked back at me, tears spilling down her face. "You had Mom, and what did I have? Trophies, titles. They're worthless if she never really saw me." Mom reached for both our hands. Her voice broke. "I made mistakes. I let love feel like a competition when it should have been a constant. But now, I see it. You both needed each other. And I love you both just differently." In that moment, there were no winners, no losers. Just three women finally sitting in truth after years of misunderstanding, jealousy, and pain. And for the first time, Caroline wasn't wearing a mask. We returned to the banquet room in silence, Mom walking between Caroline and me like an anchor between two shifting tides. No words passed between us. But Caroline's small, hesitant squeeze of my hand as we re-entered was real. The room hadn't recovered. People tried to pick up the party as if nothing had happened, but their smiles were tight, their laughter offbeat. Then Caroline tapped her wine glass. The soft ting rang out like a pin drop in a storm. "I need to say something." All eyes turned to her. She took a breath, her voice lower than I'd ever heard it. "Tonight was supposed to be about my mother. I made it about me. That was a mistake." She paused, weighing her next words. Then looked at me, eyes reddened but honest. "I let jealousy cloud my judgment. I thought I was protecting this family, but really, I was tearing it apart." The tension in the room eased slightly. A few heads nodded. Some people clapped soft understanding. Then came the final blow. "I'm leaving Denver. Next month I'm moving to Chicago. I need space to figure out how to be a better person without needing to win." Mom squeezed my hand under the table. I glanced at her. Her eyes were full of sorrow, but also relief. Not because Caroline was leaving, but because she had stopped running. She had recognized the wreckage and chosen change. The party didn't end with a bang. People said their goodbyes with quiet glances and half hugs. Something had shifted. A few weeks later, Caroline really did move. She sent me a short text. "You deserve Mom's love. Thank you for not crushing me even when I tried to crush you. I didn't reply right away. I just sat on Mom's porch, a cup of tea in hand, listening to her talk about her yoga class and a new woman in the group who might need help. Because that's where I belonged. No spotlight, no applause, just truth and peace.